Today we're gonna break down the best spec for DPSing in Phase 4 as the warrior. As a matter of fact, this build got a series of buffs very recently that make it perhaps one of the top tier contenders right now. Sadly, the PTR test was before the big buffs, so it's not gonna show up in the meters, so we're not gonna really know how much damage they will do after that, but we can theory craft it. First of all, we're gonna go Fury, because as I told you many times before, Mortal Strike is a crap ability. As a matter of fact, also Flurry is way better than 5% more crit on over here, or Deep Wounds even, which we can also take anyway. So there is really no reason to go arms. All these talents over here are crap, and this talent right here and this talent right here is absolutely amazing. That's why. So we're gonna take 5% crit because it's 5% crit. I don't think I gotta explain to you why hitting harder is very good for you. We're gonna take Booming Voice because they made it so Battle Shout and Commanding Shout will not cost any rage if you got Booming Voice. They already put it in the tooltip. That's pretty cool. Then we're gonna take right here Improved Battle Shout because it is free attack power. Of course we wanna get attack power. Then we're gonna take Enrage. Yeah, we are not gonna use it, but it's good for later. We're gonna take it for later. We're gonna take Death Wish because this thing is 20% more damage on a cooldown. Of course you wanna take 20% more damage. As I told you, these talents are crap, these talents are awesome. And then we're gonna take 4 points in dual wield specialization, because that way we're gonna hit a lot harder with the offhand. This build will be dual wielding. I thought for a while that it was gonna be two-handed Fury the meta, but sadly, actually happily, they buffed dual wield to hell, so dual wield is gonna be the way to go now. If you wanna go two-handed, it is not the end of the world, but you just skip this one and take Execute, which is an inferior talent, and that's a shame. So that's why dual wield is a lot better right now. We're gonna take Flurry because it is 30% attack power every time we crit, attack speed, sorry. So we hit 30% faster, that means 30% more rage generation, that means a lot of damage. Of course, Flurry is amazing. And finally, Bloodthirst. Why do I keep saying people that Bloodthirst is the best ability compared to Mortal Strike? Well, Bloodthirst is 45% of your attack power. Mortal Strike is your base weapon damage, and assuming you get a super slow weapon of 4 speed, about 30% of your attack power. Once you hit, and I think the number was 1200 attack power, which people in Sunken Temple already have 1200 attack power, Bloodthirst is gonna outscale Mortal Strike and it's gonna do more damage. So yeah, there is no way that at level 60 you are not gonna outscale Mortal Strike immediately. Next up, we're gonna go to arms. We're gonna take Improved Rend. We don't really need it, that's for later. We can take Heroic Strike, I guess. We're gonna take Tactical Mastery. We're gonna take 1 point here in Anger Management. It doesn't say it on the tooltip, but this right here is 1 rage every 3 seconds that you generate in combat. I don't know why to this day they didn't fix that tooltip. Like, Agrand, you wanna put something in SoD, you wanna do Classic Plus, fix the gosh ding tooltips. It is a vanilla problem. Even in vanilla I didn't say it. I don't know why. Anyway, we're gonna take Deep Wounds right here. Deep Wounds is gonna make it so every time we crit, we put a dot on the target. That's amazing. Since we are going dual wield, the mat tells you that Overpower is not a great spell right now. We're not gonna be using Overpower, so we're gonna go for Heroic Strike, and then we're gonna take 2 points in Impale. We got 3 more points to spend. I would say I would spend 1 point in dual wield specialization for that little percent more damage, and then a couple things open up. You can go here Unbridled Rat for a couple rage, not a lot of rage. You can go for Improved Charge if you want. Personally, if you are in a casual guild, if you are in a guild that is probably not gonna have a great time clearing trash organized, you know, you can go for Piercing Howl. The AoE is low, especially for dungeons. Like, if I were a Fury Warrior, I play prot mostly, but if I were to go Fury Warrior at fresh level 60 and I wanted to farm dungeons all the time, I would take Piercing Howl over anything else, because that AoE is low, it's gonna save lives constantly. Trash with this thing is a lot easier. Of course, if you want to take straight damage, just go for Improved Charge and that's pretty much it. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna take 1 here, 1 here. That's it. Now for the runes, this is where all the exciting changes happened. First of all, in the head rune, they put Endless Rage on the head rune. So Fury has a great rune right here, 25% more rage. All your rage problems are gonna pretty much be gone at that point. Then for the back, we're gonna take Fresh Meat because it has a chance when you Bloodthirst of giving you 10% more damage. For the chest, and this is where it gets like a bit more annoying, we're gonna go for Blood Frenzy. Why are we not going Raging Blow? Once again, because we are one-handed. Raging Blow got a good buff, but when you get a one-hand weapon, it's gonna do way less damage than if you are gonna do just flat attack power. And this right here is 3% attack power per tick, so it's a lot of damage actually. You can also use it in Berserker stance, so that means no stance dancing for dual wielders, and that's probably the biggest buff you can possibly get. Then for the wrist, we're gonna go take Rampage, because Rampage is gonna give you 10% attack power, and they did a change where like it doesn't cost rage anymore, so Rampage is a lot less awkward to do now. So you get 10% attack power, and then you get 10% damage. See how exponential it's getting? Because on top of that, so is 10% multiplied by 10%, so it is a total of 21% extra damage overall right here, and then we take 25% rage generation on top of that, so in theory you're gonna generate 51% extra rage with just these 3 runes. That's what I'm telling you. Then for the hands, this is a big change right here. Single-Minded Fury used to be an amazing rune, 10% more damage, then they nerfed it to hell, they took away all the damage, but now we had a compromise where it gives you attack speed. This is like if you ever play League of Legends, you know Ginso's Rage Blade, you know when you hit something and you keep getting attack speed every hit, so it's like you start slow and you ramp up, it's the same thing. So 81% extra rage generation already. And we're not even halfway through the runes. Then we're gonna take Blood Surge because it's gonna give you a free slam, of course, free abilities. Cannot compete with that. Then for the legs, we're gonna take Consumed by Rage, because this is the biggest buff they got. Your Whirlwind is gonna hit with 2 weapons at the same time. Now, Whirlwind is not gonna scale as good as Bloodthirst, actually, but it will scale a lot better than 200 Whirlwind now, so that's hilarious, you know, like the one thing that made 200 better is over. Then for the feet, this is all defensive, but we're gonna go for Rallying Cry, because this is a raid-wide defensive cooldown, so you can help your raid. Why wouldn't you take it? And of course the rings, this is a pretty easy one to do because you got only like 2 choices here. If you are using the same weapon on both hands, that's actually really good, because for example, let's say you have axes, you take the axe weapon skill right here, and for the other one we're gonna take defense. Like if you cannot get it because you got 2 different weapons and you don't have a weapon racial or whatever, it's fine. Take like the 2 weapons, you got an axe and a sword, that's fine, take an axe and a sword, it's fine. Your stat priority is gonna be rather simple. First of all, you wanna get your hit cap, you gotta take your 9% hit cap, of course you got the weapon racial now because of the rune in the ring, so that means you're gonna take 6%. You can actually take more hit and still get some benefit because the other hit is gonna go to your offhand. It is not a big deal, especially because your hit penalty doesn't apply when you're hitting with an ability, so Heroic Strike if you time it right, or your Whirlwind now, because it's gonna hit with 2 weapons. That is, in theory, we don't know yet if they changed it purposely on SoD, the Whirlwind with 2 weapons part of it, I don't know that yet, but in theory, you should be getting the full hit from an ability anyway, so you can get it, it's gonna help a little bit, but just take the 8% and leave it there. Stop stacking it. Next is going to be Strength, which is closely followed by attack power. Why strength over attack power? Because strength is multiplied of your stat bonuses. Because, for example, Blessing of Kings, that's 10% more stats. Of course, strength is gonna be at 10% better than attack power flat. You are Fury. Bloodthirst is the hardest attack power scaling ability in the game. Of course, you wanna stack attack power. Of course, also attack power is gonna affect your generation, not as much as crit. Crit is always the best rage generating stat, but it is all the way up there. Next is gonna be agility, which is 30 agility per 1% of crit, or just crit. Once again, agility is 10% more efficient because of the blessing, so that means that 27 agility will be the same as 1% crit. For the same reason as I said, every time you crit, you get attack speed, so critting every so often to keep the uptime on flurry is very important. It lasts 5 swings, that is not a lot of time. So there is never a point where crit becomes bad per se, it is just that strength scales a little better. As a matter of fact, since they nerfed recklessness, which it used to give you 100% crit, but now it is 50% crit, they reduce the cooldown to compensate. But that means you can go all the way to 50% crit before it becomes a problem, before it is actually not worth it. So you can basically stack all the crit you want and you're never gonna go over any soft cap. Thanks to them putting this new rune in the head slot, the Endless Rage one, that means we don't have to do any stance dancing anymore for the rotation. Posted it Medina here, I guess I should make a little caveat here because I know people are gonna get mad. This is assuming you do not have the tier set bonus. If you have the tier set bonus, the entire freaking class changes, and that's gonna take a different video on its own. Basically, changing stances generates rage, and also you can use stance every time you leave a stance you can use the abilities for 5 more seconds, and you wanna swap between battle stance and berserker stance so you can take 10% crit and 10% damage at the same time. Now, if you do not have the 2-piece set bonus from Molten Core, because Molten Core hasn't even come out yet, that is not what you're gonna do. Stand dancing is not gonna work for you until then. I will make a different guide explaining how the set bonuses are gonna work after that. What I do know is that taking Stays for Blood instead of Endless Rage currently is not worth it until you get that set bonus, mainly because your overpower doesn't hit really that hard and changing stances is really costly for you because you lose the rage. So it is better to take Endless Rage and just perma-Q Heroic Strike instead. Again, once you get the tier bonuses, that is not gonna be the case anymore. Just stay tuned for when I make a guide on that. I'm gonna make a refresh guide with the set bonuses. I don't know how to call it, like set bonus spec? It's weird how like a set bonus can change the entire class. I mean, I think that's cool. But yeah, keep that in mind. To start, you wanna keep Rend on the target. Then, you're gonna do Bloodthirst. First of all, over anything else, Bloodthirst hits the hardest by far. And then we're gonna do Slam every time we get a proc, you know, the Blood Surge proc. I made a Wikora to track the Blood Surge procs. It's on my Discord on the SoD Warrior channel. I'm gonna put a link on the description. Every time you get a proc, you do it. It's literally free. How can you go wrong with free? After that, we're gonna do Whirlwind, because now we hit with 2 weapons and it scales very hard. Not as hard as Bloodthirst. Still, it is like 10% attack power behind, but it is still extremely respectable. And finally, we're gonna be dumping all our excess rage on our offhand. Every time our offhand is about to swing, we're gonna do a Heroic Strike, and that way we can circumvent the hit penalty, so it's gonna hit as if it were a main hand because it's a bug, and that should increase your damage quite a lot. Now in Execute phase, we're not gonna be doing Heroic Strike, and instead we're gonna be doing Execute. It will dump all your rage, so ideally you wanna make sure that you did your Bloodthirst before doing your Execute, but it's still worth it. Comparatively, it got a lot weaker than the other abilities because the other abilities are super busted, but it is still worth doing. Also keep in mind, you're gonna have to be doing Rampage every time you can. You gotta keep that up all the time. You also got Death Wish and you got Recklessness. Those are 2 of your cooldowns that you can use to do a lot more damage. Typically, people wanna dump those cooldowns at the end of the boss because usually all the DPS checks are at the end of the boss, or because Execute phase is a little more damage than the normal phase. Ideally, if your raid leader is competent, he should tell everybody when to use their cooldowns, but that's what usually people do. Also, I would like to break down the best weapons that you should take, because the weapon is obviously the most important part of every freaking patch. Your pre-raid vesting slot is most likely going to be the Sunken Temple weapons. They got 40 DPS on it and it got Wind Fury on it. They put Wind Fury on it, brother. So if you can get your hands on this one, and they are kinda rare, so they are not that easy to get, this is gonna be the best. Otherwise, you can always go for Dal Rends. They put hit on it now. The main hand is essentially the same item, but they are about the same. They are a little weaker. They got 1 more DPS, but the Wind Fury effect and the 150 attack power bonus is a lot better than Dalren's. It shouldn't be that far away though, so you can go to Ubers and farm this thing for 20 days and get it. I mean, I think Sunken Temple is gonna be a little easier. Now, the actual best in slot in the face, the one that I think is gonna be like no question the best, is gonna be the Eshkandar Fist weapon duo right here. They are actually a full set, and you can get a 4 set, and it can summon like a Eshkandar, which is like a demon guy that does a bunch of damage, and it also gives you 30% attack speed when you get a proc. So this thing is gonna be super busted for rage generation. You get free hit from the set bonus and you get free crit too. It is basically perfect. This is everything that a warrior could want. Subscribe, join the Discord, and thank you for watching!